Hi, I'm Natasha, the Education and Promotion Manager at the South East Regional Centre for Urban Land Care, or SERCUL. I coordinate the Phosphorus Awareness Project, which is funded through a grant from the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions. The Phosphorus Awareness Project, or PAP, is an education campaign aimed at protecting the health of the Swan and Canning rivers. We talk to people about waterways and how to protect them. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some of the ways that we, in our workplaces, at home, in our gardens, and just while we're out and about, can unfortunately have an impact on our rivers and wetlands. Since SERCUL is based in Perth, I'm going to be talking about the water bodies of Perth. But if you are located somewhere else, you can think about your local rivers and wetlands instead. For those in Perth, do you know the main river that runs through our city? If you said the Swan River, you would be correct. The Avon River becomes the Swan River in the Darling Range, which are the hills surrounding Perth, and flows through the suburbs of Perth before emptying into the Indian Ocean at Fremantle Harbour. Other rivers in Perth include the Canning River and tributaries or smaller rivers that flow into the larger Swan and Canning rivers, such as the Helena River and Southern River. We also have many wetlands and natural and man-made lakes. Can you think of one near you? Do you ever visit these rivers or wetlands? If you do, what do you like to do there? Some of the things that I know people in Perth like to do include swimming, boating, skiing, walking, watching fireworks, fishing, picnicking and bird watching. If we want to be able to continue to enjoy our rivers and wetlands in these ways, we need to make sure that they are kept healthy. More importantly, we need to keep them working in a healthy way so that all of the plants and animals that live there can continue to have a clean environment to call home. To understand how our water bodies, such as rivers and wetlands, become polluted and unhealthy, we need to understand how they become filled with water. To understand this, we need to know what a catchment is. On your screen is a model of a catchment. If you were to pour water anywhere on this catchment, it would make its way into a creek, dam or river and ultimately into the ocean. A catchment is an area of land that collects water for a water body, such as a river, lake, wetland or dam. In Perth, that means it's an area of land that supplies water to one of our water bodies, such as the Swan or Canning rivers. Any rain that falls within the Swan Canning catchment will flow into the Swan or Canning rivers and eventually into the ocean. A basic way to understand how catchments work is to cup your hand and think about where the water flows when you put your hand under a running tap. Your fingers and thumb are like the hills, whilst your palm is like the valleys and the creases in your palm are the rivers. Water will flow down the hills or your fingers and thumb into your palm or the valleys and make its way into the creases, which are the rivers. Your hand has now become a catchment. The Swan Canning catchment includes the Swan and Canning rivers, which occur in the Perth metropolitan area, and its tributaries, the Helena River, Jane Brook, Allen Brook, and a number of other brooks, creeks and rivers, which are both inside and outside of the urban area. There are 31 sub-catchments, or smaller catchments, which feed the Swan Canning catchment. Rain that falls from the clouds will make its way through the catchment and into water bodies in one of three ways. The first way is through the soil by leaching into groundwater. Groundwater is underground water that is held in the soil, causing the soil to be saturated. Groundwater travels through the soil very slowly towards the river. The second way is via runoff, directly into creeks and streams that flow into the river. The third way is through street drains or stormwater drains. Contrary to what many people believe, the stormwater system of drains is separate to the sewage system of drains that take wastewater from our homes, schools and businesses. Wastewater from these places usually goes through a series of drains to a wastewater treatment plant to be treated before being disposed of into the ocean far offshore. If you live on a big property or in the country, you might not be connected to the sewage system. Instead, you will have a septic tank, which is an underground chamber made of concrete, fiberglass or plastic, through which the wastewater flows for basic treatment before flowing into the groundwater system. The stormwater system of drains, however, flows straight into the nearest river or wetland without having undergone any treatment at all. Unfortunately, water isn't the only thing that can make its way into our water bodies through the groundwater, runoff or via the drains. Think about the types of chemicals and rubbish that end up on our roads and will be flushed down the drain the next time it rains. or the chemicals that people put on their lawns and gardens to help them grow or to get rid of pests? What about those lawn clippings that people blow off their lawn onto the road? Or the sand from a builder's site that ends up on the road? All of these things can pollute our water bodies, and many of them contain nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus. Agricultural sources contribute about half of all the nutrients in the Swan Canning catchment, but the remaining 50% comes from the urban environment by way of fertilisers, leakages from septic tanks, detergents, bread fed to water birds, soil, grass clippings, leaves, particularly from deciduous trees, and dog feces. So you may be asking why nutrients are a problem, given that nutrients are essential for life for all plants and animals. Nutrients are good as they give us nourishment for growth. We get nutrients from the food we eat, and nutrients are naturally present in soil and water bodies, but in very low amounts. Nutrients are readily dissolved, so are taken up by plants when they draw water, and are passed on to animals when they eat plants or other animals. As they are readily dissolved, they pass easily into our water bodies, causing high levels in rivers and wetlands. High nutrient levels cause algae growth, and excessive algae growth causes numerous problems. So the answer to the question of whether nutrients are good or bad depends on the amounts in which they are present. Low levels of nutrients sustain life, while higher levels threaten life. So who knows what algae is? Algae is a plant that grows naturally in our water bodies. You may have seen it in rivers, lakes, wetlands or drains. Small amounts of algae are good as they provide a source of food for many herbivores or plant-eating animals. Unfortunately, algae is not like us. It doesn't stop consuming nutrients when it's full. The more nutrients we give it, the more it'll grow. It particularly likes the warmer months when temperatures are higher, the sun is bright, the water in the river or wetland is calm, and the nutrients are concentrated in a smaller body of water. Eventually, if given the right conditions of warm weather, sunshine, calm water, and lots of nutrients, algae can bloom and cover large areas of a water body. Imagine you are a plant at the bottom of a lake, and the roof of your house is the algae. What bright object can you not see up in the sky because your roof, or the algae, is in the way? If you said the sun, you would be right, and if a plant can't see the sun, then it can't photosynthesize and produce energy, and it will eventually die. Also, as the algae that covers a wetland or river dies and breaks down, it uses up the dissolved oxygen in the water, meaning less is available for fish and other aquatic animals that use oxygen from the water. If there are no plants, then a lot of the animals that eat the plants will starve. If there are no fish, then a lot of the animals that eat the fish will starve. So algal blooms can soon cause all plants and animals in a water body to die. And if they breathe oxygen from the air like turtles, they will move away from the area because they will have nothing to eat. So algal blooms are undesirable as they decrease levels of light reaching aquatic plants and decrease levels of dissolved oxygen. Certain types of algae can be harmful to humans and animals if swallowed, and rashes can develop if it is touched. You won't know if it's a poisonous type of algae or not, so it's best that you don't touch any algae. Algae also makes our water bodies look awful, and as the algae dies, it smells really bad, meaning we won't want to visit our water bodies if there is a bloom, so it will stop us from using them for the things we enjoy doing. Currently, the Swan Canning River system is receiving high levels of nutrients, including nitrogen, phosphorus, and organic carbon from its catchments. As we know, excess nutrients fuel algal blooms and cause low oxygen conditions. To move towards a healthier system where there are reduced nitrogen, phosphorus, and organic carbon inputs to the river, a reduction in the incidence of algal bloom and low oxygen conditions, and more favourable conditions for the growth of aquatic plants such as seagrasses, we need to restore catchment and foreshore areas, improve water quality, and involve the community. So what can we do to prevent algae blooms? As the overuse of fertiliser is the #1 cause of algae blooms, the best way of reducing the excessive growth of algae is to reduce our use of fertilisers. One way to do that is to plant native species that are suited to your soil type. Native plants growing in the natural soil type are adapted to those conditions, which generally means they are growing in a nutrient-deficient environment, so they don't require additional inputs of fertiliser to grow well. SERCUL has a map on its website, www.sercul.org.au, that puts all the soil types of Perth into 5 categories. To find the category your soil is in, look for your suburb on the map and find which colour corresponds to where your property is located. You can then find a brochure on our website that lists all of the native plants that grow well in that soil type. For those with lawns, you will also find a Fertilise Wise brochure that tells you exactly how much fertiliser is needed for your soil type. Different soil types have different nutrient and water holding capacities, and grass should be fertilised accordingly and only during autumn and spring to prevent the leaching of nutrients into our groundwater and consequently into our waterways. Other ways of preventing algae blooms include making sure you don't blow things like soil, grass clippings or fertiliser onto the road and down the street drain. The road is not a rubbish bin. When you mow the lawn, if you leave the grass clippings on the surface of the lawn, they will actually act as a natural fertiliser, as they will add nutrients to the soil as they decompose, meaning that you will reduce your reliance on artificial fertilisers. If you don't want to leave your clippings on the lawn, do the right thing and put them in your compost bin. In your home, you should always use phosphorus-free detergents, as regardless of whether you are connected to the sewage system or a septic tank, some of your wastewater is going to make its way into one of our water bodies, and whether that's the ocean or a river, the plants and animals will appreciate not having to live in a polluted environment. Many detergents are labelled with the symbol NP, which means they contain no phosphorus, so look for products with this symbol when you go shopping. If the product does contain phosphorus, it might have a P symbol on it. Avoid buying products that display this symbol. Not all products will advertise that they contain phosphorus, so just because they don't have this symbol on them doesn't mean they are phosphorus free. If you want to wash your car, the best place to do it is at a car wash where they recycle the water. If you want to wash it yourself, do it on the grass, so that if you are using a car washing detergent, it will at least fertilise the grass. Better yet, don't use any detergent. Use a fibre mitt, some water and elbow grease to clean your car instead. Don't ever wash your car using detergent on the driveway, as all the soap and nutrients will end up down the street drain and feeding algae. If you have a septic tank on your property, ensure that it is well maintained and that the solids in the tank are emptied on a regular basis, so that no leakages occur and cause nutrients from your wastewater to enter the groundwater. When walking your dog or even at home, ensure that you pick up its poop. Most parks have doggy-do disposal bags on offer, or better yet, take some newspaper with you. Once you have picked up your dog's poop, be sure to put it in a bin. Dog poop, like all poop, contains large amounts of nutrients such as phosphorus, and number 2s from pets, including dogs and cats, are actually the number 2 cause of algal blooms in the urban area. When going on a walk to the park, don't be tempted to feed the waterbirds bread. Feeding bread to waterbirds is a bit like feeding them fast food. When they become reliant on bread, they don't eat their natural food, and this can cause malnutrition and diseases such as botulism, as they aren't getting the right balance of nutrients. They can then die from these diseases or starvation. Bread also contains large amounts of the nutrient phosphorus. If left to decompose in waterways or pooped out by birds that eat it, it can cause algal blooms. One loaf of bread contains enough phosphorus to make a volume of water the size of a backyard swimming pool nutrient-rich, which will result in an algal bloom. As well as doing your bit to prevent nutrients from entering our water bodies, you can also help to prevent other types of pollutants from causing problems by limiting your use of chemicals in and around the home, school and workplace, keeping your cars well maintained to prevent petrol, oil and other chemical leaks, and disposing of your waste properly. So what have we learnt today? We all now know that low levels of nutrients sustain life, whilst high levels threaten life. Excess nutrients cause algae to bloom, which results in plants and animals dying and means that we are unable to use the waterways in the way we enjoy. Finally, what we should all have learnt is that we are responsible for allowing nutrients to enter our rivers and wetlands, and as such, we are all responsible for reducing the amount of nutrients making their way into our waterways through our catchments via runoff, the groundwater or street drains. For more information, visit SERCUL's website at www.circle.org.au/publications. Under the Phosphorus Awareness Project Publications heading, you will find some great information about being phosphorus aware. Under the Phosphorus Awareness Project School Resources heading, you will find lots of school resources, including worksheets and activities. Thank you.